Hey, how you doing? I'm Dan McGee. Welcome to my garage. Just thinking about Sheridan driving. If you grew up in southwest suburbs, say Bridgeview, Justice, Willow Springs, Oak Lawn, any of those communities, you would have more than likely went to the Sheridan Drive-In for a movie. If you were older than, whatever. If you were older than 60, if you're older than 60 right now, then you probably went there as a teenager. But we were teenagers in the 70s, and we would have been able to drive anytime after, we'll say, 1974. And when we went to the Sheridan Drive-In, it was really, really neat. What the thing that stands out to me the most about going to the drive-in was not so much about the movies. It was about the camaraderie of meeting people at the movies. We would go to high school, and if we knew somebody that could drive, we would go to the movies on a Friday, Saturday night. And if you weren't old enough to drive and you didn't know anybody with a car, what you would do, well, some people snuck in their trunks, and just like you see in the movies, actually. But in the back of Sheridan Drive-In, between there was like a ditch right before there was like a big plywood wall. So if you were like in a parking lot of Kmart, or at the time it was called the Fun Fair, and now it's called 100 Trails, you couldn't really see the screen. Most of the screen would have been blocked by this wall. But anyhow, that wall that I'm talking about was pretty much about, I would have to guess, 12 feet high, give or take. But the way they had it, there was like a ditch that ran alongside of that. And there was like a waterway ditch, so when it rained really hard, the water from where all the cars parked wore like this little gully, and it would empty into this bigger ditch that, like I said, that was actually in the back of the Sheridan Drive-In. So anyhow, the reason I was talking about that, because that actually, if you didn't have a car, or you couldn't sneak in with somebody that did have a car, you still could have went there. You would just, as long as it didn't rain, that's a big thing. If there was a lot of rain, it would have been flooded, and you really couldn't get in there unless you wanted to walk through a lot of mud. But anyhow, there was this gully that you could crawl underneath and meet all your friends there. So now there's stories, and I'm sure they're true because it happened to me. Somebody put some thin boards, because the ditch really wasn't deep. It was just kind of wide. I would have to say it was 6 to 8 feet wide, and as long as it didn't rain real hard, there would only be a couple inches of water, but it would be maybe couple feet wide of water. Well, somebody took some boards, probably like 2x12s or plywood. I can't even remember, but they made this little bridge that you could walk over to get underneath there. But obviously, it wasn't anything that was nailed together or anything. It was just kind of sat there, and you could sneak in that way. But if you're not careful, you could actually slip and fall in there. And, depending on if you really wanted to go there, you would just go in there all muddy, or you would just call it a day, well, a night probably, and go home and maybe come back another day. Say this happened on a Friday, you try it again Saturday. But it was neat. It was like I said, it was more of a camaraderie thing. One of the weird things about it, and I'm not even, I guess it's just a kid thing, but I remember in high school that people would say, "Oh, are you going to Sheridan tonight? We're going to be fighting this other school." It's it's usually like the football players or something, the wrestlers. You know what I mean? They were more of the people that like to like to fight, I guess. They, it would be all over the school, and then all of a sudden, when you went there, there'd be like, 20 cars of Argo, and they would be all parked. I think they normally parked, which would be, I think it would be like the south side of the snack building, and then some of the other schools would be Revis, and then there was Oak Lawn. Those would be the big rivals. But like I said, it was just stupid kid stuff. But there, every once in a while there would be some bigger fights, and the police would come. And I can't remember anybody ever getting arrested. Maybe if you did or you ever heard of anything, you could write it in the comments. Tell us your story. But it was a good time. What I loved about it too is it sounds silly, but the snack bar. The snack bar had, like, when you're a teenager and you want some popcorn or slushies, or I can't remember. I'm sure they had hot dogs and other stuff, but you would go there and spend time with your friends, and you watch the movie a little bit, but like I said, the majority of it turned out to be like a big party spot. I don't really want to get into what people were partying with or anything like that, but if you lived it, you know what it was. So it was fun though. I gotta say, it's a shame that it ended up closing down. And all the movies nowadays, up until the whole COVID thing, everything was inside buildings, and all that camaraderie and getting together stuff went away. But on the other hand, if you, I have a feeling that because of this COVID thing, there's actually going to be a resurgence of outdoor theaters, not just the temporary ones like in Toyota Park or around the Chicago area, but I think real ones, because the movie industry, they stream a lot of stuff, and you could go on Netflix, Hulu, and Prime, and all those, and see the movies, but it's not the same. It's not like seeing something on an 80-foot screen, or even in a movie theater. When we were growing up, movie screens were really big. Like a perfect example is Ford City had, I'm pretty sure they had 2 or 3 screens. And by the time we stopped going there, they took those 3 screens, and I think they made like 8 of them out of it. Which I guess the idea behind that is, excuse me, they could show more movies. And they, even if, like, say, Jaws was playing, that would have been an old movie, that would have easily filled one of those big theaters. But what you would, if there was a movie that didn't play real well, I couldn't even tell you what it would be, but a movie that didn't do well, maybe it would only be half full. But now if you, break that into 8 smaller theaters, the screens are a lot smaller, which to me, that's kind of why we went there, for the big screens. You could show 8 different movies, or if there was a popular movie, you could show it on a number of screens at once. So you're still going to have the same amount of customers going in. But anyhow, rambling on, Sheridan movie theater, or not movie theater, Sheridan Drive-In was also the home of a flea market that they had on Sundays. I think maybe even Saturdays and Sundays, but Sundays for sure. And that thing would fill up. It was amazing at how many people, and people would come from all over the Chicago area and buy there and sell there. But I used to love going there. It was like if you walked in, it was like a excuse me, it was only about a quarter or something just to get in. It was just a nominal fee. So when I was younger, I would have probably been probably before I was 16, so anywhere between 13 and 16. I was really into collecting trains, or tools. I loved collecting trains and tools. So I would, go and if I had a couple bucks, I did a side job helping somebody, or even taking bottles back. It was like, if you're younger, you don't even know what that even is. But when you were younger in the 60s and 70s, you had returnable bottles, and they were like 3 cents a bottle. Then they went up to a nickel a bottle, and then I think they went up to like 7 cents. And if you had somebody on your block that bought a lot of soda and they just didn't want to deal with it, you could take those bottles and you return them to your corner store, and you would get money for them. So that's pretty much what I lived on when I was a kid, is returning bottles from all my neighbors. So, but anyhow, getting back to the whole Sheridan thing with the tools and trains, like I said, that's exactly what I would go up there for. But everybody would go up for something different. There's people that collected like knickknacks and car parts. I mean, everything. I mean, they still have flea markets around. I guess there's one right, I can't remember what town it is. It's either Bolingbrook or Romeoville. But there are still some flea markets out there, but I don't really go to them anymore because, it's a lot of it. Actually, a lot of it turned into just a bunch of Chinese tools. I mean, you could go to Harbor Freight and get the same stuff for the same price and not have to deal with, with the whole flea market atmosphere with crazy parking and entrance fees and all that other stuff. But anyhow, just wanted to do a quick video on Sheridan Drive-In because it was a big part of growing up in our area. So, Burbank was another town. I couldn't think of the other name. But yeah, if you lived in any of those towns, that's where you would go. You would go to see a movie there. If you feel like it, if you want to keep this conversation going, which would be nice, in the comments section, do some comments about maybe stories of what some of the things that happened to you, adventures we'll call them, in Sheridan Drive-In, anywhere, anywhere from, I don't even know when they opened. We'll say from the 60s into the 80s, I imagine, before they closed up. I can't remember when it closed either. But anyhow, so they closed the big drive-in, and, it was kind of a loss for our area. They put some stores in there, and some of them did well, and some of them didn't, and they've already tore some of those stores down already. So anyhow, leave a comment on some of your adventures that have to do with Sheridan Drive-In, maybe some of the movies you've seen, if you went with your parents when you were little, or if you just went there to party with your friends. So we we did a little of everything. When we were little, we went with our parents, and when we were older, we met our friends there. So, all right, that's about all for today. And it's about 43 degrees today, so you know what tea it is. It's hot tea time. Cheers to ya. Talk to you later.